What's wrong? There we go.
There we go. There we go. Episode 57. The Cinnamon. It is yet another episode of the Cinnamon. It's been forever, it seems like, since we've done an episode one of these, but we are back once again. It is your faithful stewards of cinema. I, myself, seat one half of the Cinnamon, and I'm joined, as always, by the effervescent Mr. Douglas D. Davidson. How are you doing today, sir?
You call me effervescent. Now I feel like I need to show up. I'm feeling less than bubbly, but I'll fake it and no one else will notice. Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone. Make sure I keep between strictly me, you, and all 60 some odd people who listen to this.
Everybody listening to this
show. How you doing today, sir?
It's been a day. It's been a day, but talking about movies always has a way to sort of cheer me up a little bit. So
right on.
It ain't so bad. Any day you can actually do that is a good day.
Any day you can walk away from. I think that's what they say.
Well, I think it was Launchpad who said any crash you can walk away from is a good one, which really is applicable to any day either.
Yeah.
Because lately it just seems to be one horrible crash after another.
Yes.
But but along the way I've been able to at least see some interesting films and keep my brain functioning. So at least that's good.
Yeah, well, a functioning brain is a good one because when your brain stops functioning, I do believe that's when you're dead. So you want a functioning brain if possible.
Can be. And I have no spice to keep me going. So all out of spice.
Hold on a second.
What?
Before we get into anything else, what was your challenge for me this episode?
Some little Sandy. Something that when the Baron went, those are my dunes. I pointed right at the TV and went.
No. What was your challenge for me?
For you, Flash Gordon.
Okay. All right. I had a quick grip of fear that I had forgotten to watch something. Okay. All right then.
Gordon's alive.
It was about to be a 13-minute episode. All right, then, cool. I did watch.
Stretch it out.
We're all good to go. Speaking of movies that you have seen, sir, what lately has hit on your radar? A couple joints that you think people need to check out.
Well, something I think would be an interesting watch. There's a British thriller dramedy is the best way to describe it, called Night Shooters by director Mark Prince. It was released in 2018 in the UK and Ireland, and it's hit VOD services on November 2nd. The short version is it's a film crew is in a derelict building that's set for demolition in the morning. They are doing one last night shoot, and while they're doing some pickups, they notice a killing across the street in the next building. So like you do. And so the gang in that building, the boss sends his minions to go kill the film crew, and they've got to survive their way out of it. Thanks to the stuntman, the weapons master, production sound designer, all having their moments, if you will, to sort of shine and set up. If you watch the trailer, it has a vibe that's a little bit Shaun of the Dead style, where it's a serious situation, but sort of these silly, wacky comedic moments. And for me, the one issue is that it's sort of tonally off because the dramatic moments are super severe. And that then when it tries to swing back to the other direction in comedy, something gets undercut. But honestly, the martial arts sequences in it are some of the best I've seen. And in terms of the action direction, some of the best I've seen all year. And that includes some straight out of Hong Kong, including Raging Fire, which surprised the hell out of me that this indie film from 2018 would have such great sequences. So again, that one's on VOD. It's called Night Shooters. Do recommend that. A film that's in theaters as of the November 5th, and then I believe it's I think it's digital on the 9th of November, is a new Jesse V. Johnson film called Hell Hath No Fury. Jesse V. Johnson, for those of you that aren't familiar, he directed Avengement, Triple Threat. The believe the first one was called Debt Collector, and the second one was called The Debt Collectors. But he's worked with Scott Adkins in quite a few films. Yeah. This is the fourth film of his that I've reviewed. and it's actually based on a true story. There was a woman, Marie Dujan. I apologize. I'm gonna fuck up her last name. Dujan. During World War II, she was a French resistance fighter seducing a German officer, and ends up in a situation in the film where she has to navigate greedy Germans, Americans, and French people while trying to finish her mission. And it all takes place in a graveyard. You've got what's his name, Daniel Bernhardt, who is a stuntman and actor. He shows up in a lot of action movies that people have seen. Most recently, he was in Nobody as one of the Russian heavies on the bus, and he's the one that trained. All of a sudden, I can't think of his name. Better Call Saul. Yeah, him. Thank you. Thank you for the help. Appreciate that. Just leave that hanging. Love that dead air.
I was like, not David Cross, the other one.
Yeah.
Oh, Bob Odenkirk. There we go.
Bob Odenkirk. Thank you. But Daniel trained Bob for years in getting him ready for this, even before they were actually starting shooting, which was just fascinating to learn in the bonus features of Nobody. But Nina Bergman, she plays Marie and does it wonderfully. So it's got a solid cast. It's a World War II epic, but it's also really, really tight and tiny. Two more things I want to at least name. One is available now called Introducing Selma Blair. It is a documentary about the actor.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
And her finding out about her dealing with and treating her MS diagnosis. It is one of the best documentaries I've seen this year. I cried several times. It is, I believe, available through Discovery Channel. The other one is a film that I believe is coming from Neon called Flea. It has screened at a couple of festivals. It'll finally be released in December. Highly, highly recommend checking this one out. It looks like an animated film and an original story, but it's a documentary told via animation in a way to protect the people that are involved in the story. And it's about a young man who now at the age of 36 is sharing the story about his escape from Kabul, out from underneath some regimes that took his father, that took his family, and how he sort of survived and come up from that. It's the way that they use the animation really brings the story to life in a way that using newsreel footage or standard talking head interviews wouldn't do. So it's really powerful in that regard. So highly recommend both of those. And then if you get the chance to see it, it's in select theaters and on Netflix now. The Harder They Fall. You've seen this one, right?
Yep.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty fun. Throwback to the classical old Western. It's pretty good. I really, really liked it.
Right on. Have you seen, by any chance, They Die by Dawn? The director, James Samuels, that was his first feature, running at about 46 minutes, with this being sort of that full length.
No, I haven't.
Have you seen that by any chance?
No.
Highly recommend you check it out. I found it on YouTube, and I don't know if it was supposed to be there. Like, I was doing a search, and someone's like, it's on YouTube. But it's got an incredible cast. Michael K. Williams is in it. He plays Nat Love in the original.
Oh, okay.
And Erykah Badu plays Stagecoach Mary.
Oh, right on. Much better casting.
And it just goes deeper from there. So watching, incidentally, watching The Harder They Fall after watching They Die by Dawn, which has a completely different premise, made actually watching The Harder They Fall much more interesting. But man, Idris Elba, what a profile that man has. Like, he can just stand somewhere and you go, you guys are fucked.
yeah,
so fucked.
He uses a space well in that movie, and they shoot him taking up space. Not a whole lot of talking for him in that movie, just a lot of presence.
And it really works. He has done films. I haven't watched his television work because I understand Luther is quite good. I've never checked it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen him play smartass good guy turned bad guys. I've seen him be, Black Superman in the Fast and Furious movie. But this is just something else, because he's not talking smack like he does in Suicide Squad, which I did a rewatch of that recently, and that's quite a bit of fun still. But the fact that he doesn't speak as much, and when he does, he's going to cut you to the quick in more ways than one. Like, it was impressive. This whole ensemble was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good ensemble film. Really good ensemble film. Dug it.
If it weren't for the only thing that bugged me, in all honesty, is given recent public statements by Lakeith Stanfield, he's an actor whom I love, but he's recently opened his mouth to some anti-Semitic nonsense that left me with a bitter taste in my mouth for him. But everybody else was fucking amazing. Regina King was a perfect match, not even necessarily as a love interest, but just as a physical performance match to Idris. It was just wonderful. The stuff she does with just gestures. Maybe he was going to say negligent. Doesn't matter.
Nope.
Began with an N word.
Yep.
Done.
Yeah, they gotta take him out. That's a sentiment I agree with. Yeah, it's good. It's good casting all around. It's one of the better ensembles of the year, I think, and definitely, like I said in my review, one of the more fun home watches I've seen this year.
Considering we are in November and leaning towards award season, do you think it has any chances? Most people have been talking about it in terms of the song that I think Jay-Z produced with Kid Cudi.
Maybe. I'm not. That's not where I'd be leaning for awards. I know for.
What would you be thinking?
I know we have our ensemble category, so that's definitely going to get a nomination for me. Outside of that, no.
Nothing that just sparked anything.
No. Maybe original screenplay. I would be. There's a couple I was like, that's kind of funny. It's kind of brilliant. There's some good shots in there that I really dug. But yeah, I think it'll come up here and be like, that was pretty cool, and then get back to the quote unquote real award season awards. A little bit of fun in the midst of all the serious, heavy, weighty movies we're about to get is what I see that as.
Yeah, and God, it was just refreshing. It really, really was. So just sometimes you just want to go to the movies and have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to the other movie I wanted to bring up to you. We talked about this before we began recording, is Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe Zhao has returned to the cinema, coming off of her Oscar win for Nomadland, to give us the third film of Phase 4, but one that, at least as I would describe it, is way more like Phase 1 in terms of resetting the board and starting things off. Apparently, I liked it just slightly more than you. And this is apparently going to release around the time that the film drops, so I won't get into spoilery content. But I will ask you, because you are familiar with this run of comics, yes?
A little bit.
Beyond the fact that it's Jack Kirby written, created, I've got nothing.
Gaiman had a good run on it as well.
Did he?
Those are the two big. Like, if you want to go old school, Kirby's the one. If you want to get a little bit more contemporary, Gaiman did it back in the day as well.
I didn't realize he did those comiks. I only know about the stuff he created.
People forget he did more than just Sandman. He had a nice little run in comics, and Eternals is one of them.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, let's not get into spoilers. I guess I was trying to debate whether or not if we wanted to, but I guess it'll be a little bit fresh. So no.
I have no problem with that. So I'm going to ask this question. I don't think it's spoilery to ask you about the Celestials and what you think, because in the advertising for it, in the trailers, marketing, whatever, they show us one. I forget his name, giant red dude. This is the third Celestial introduced into the MCU. The first one we see in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, he looks like we see him from a distance, but he roughly looks Godzilla-sized. Pick your Godzilla movie. But he roughly looks Godzilla-sized, and he's using the Power Stone to destroy the whole planet.
Yes, and we also see, I think, Ego was a Celestial, isn't it?
In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Ego is also Celestial. Although in Guardians 1, I think we get introduced to Nowhere, and that is the head of a Celestial, but still. But then there's Ego, which is just sentience. He's basically a brain who formed a planet around himself. So that's a different version of a Celestial. So my question to you is, the way that we see, is it Ashram? Probably forgetting that. But this Celestial, seems to be of a different size and proportion.
Mhm.
Is that something that is consistent in the comics
Yeah,
as
yeah.
written before, or is this MCU interpretation where the Celestials could be a sentient creature over here, could be several, hundreds of stories tall here, could be as big as a planet over there?
Yeah, there's different celestials all throughout, and they all different shapes and whatnot. That one specifically from Eternals, I've seen throughout comic books. Like that is one that is straight pulled from the comic books. Yeah, but the celestials as like depending on how high you want to go, one of the gods of the universe or the multiverse within Marvel. Yeah, all kinds of differentness.
And just in terms of power level, are they because we've dealt with Thanos, we dealt with some others. Do we need to worry about the Celestials in the same way that they want us worrying about Kang the Conqueror that they're already seeding with Loki?
Yes, I mean Kang, yeah, dude who can travel, traverse the multiverse versus the people who built the multiverse.
I'm just saying,
So
you can take an architect out at the legs and still walk away. So
yeah.
This is why I'm asking. I
The
have
Celestials can be a. It's apparent that we're going intergalactic and cosmic with. As soon as Fantastic Four are introduced, and they're just going to break that whole realm of Marvel open. And I think that's setting up for we will have two concurrent threats, a multiversal threat, and actually, what all kind of ties in nicely now I think about it. You have a multiversal threat and the people who created the multiverse as a threat. So they all could tie in as one thing, but it seems like that's going to be where they go as a setup for Secret Wars somewhere down the line. How they tweak the Secret War story, that's to be seen.
And I forget, you have or haven't seen Venom Let There Be Carnage?
No.
Okay. So I can't ask you about that because the Morbius trailer just dropped and we've seen Eternals. So I have questions, but fine. F you then. I'll wait until the FYC screener for Venom 2 shows up and you watch that and then we'll talk about it.
Probably won't.
Wait. It won't show up?
No,
or you
I won't watch it because I just have no interest. And there's other things I could be folding my clothes or making my bed or something like that. And as far as Morbius, same thing. So yeah, I've heard kind of what the trailer is about, and there's some little ties and little bits here and there.
Yeah.
Sony's trying. I'll give them an A+ for effort.
Oh, they are trying
They're
hardcore.
trying
I
hard.
have some serious questions, and I have to applaud them. I have to applaud them for at least generating the questions. But what about you? What have you seen as we have deviated into the depths of the MCU?
I've seen a couple things, man. I saw a Vietnamese horror movie called Malaysian called Ro.
Called what?
Ro. ROH.
Ro.
Yeah. You know what? They sent me notes. Cut off from civilization, a young family's life is upended by the supernatural in an eerily atmospheric folk horror tale. And it's Malaysia's entry for Best International, so we'll see if the Oscars picks up. It's pretty well. I would say it's pretty damn good, but the DVD screen they sent me started skipping with 13 minutes left.
No.
Yeah, right as everything is being explained, and
oh God,
all throughout I got my theories like, oh, this could be this, and I don't know about this person, and right like maybe 10 seconds into the right as everything's being explained, like it just it's not the last 13 minutes. It jumps 13 minutes to the climax. And I'm just like, no, how did I get here? Whatever. And I've tried to go back a couple different times, and I'm missing the one final piece that lets me know what's going on. But everything leading up to that, very well done, very well paced. It's just this little isolated family in the middle of nowhere who's being haunted by something, and you have two different entities there. There's one person that could be there to help, one person that is their antagonist, and you're not sure which is which. So yeah, it's just who can you trust, who can't you trust, and they do a very good job at that.
Right on.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
It was very interesting, very well told. I also saw
who's distributing
that. My boys, Film Movement, man. Film Movement hooks me up. They're my way into most of my foreign language movies, like Wife of a Spy, the Japanese Korean joint. that came out earlier this year. I also got the film movement as well.
Right on. I'll go look that up. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, man, I dig film movement a lot. I also saw you see IFC sent out their slate of nonsense there. One of those was The Novice, which was directed by Lauren Hadaway. Very dope joint. Basically, about obsession is really the key right there. Think about it like Black Swan if Black Swan were in this case about kayaking and rowing. And I was like, I don't fucking care about rowing and kayaking. This shit ain't me. But decided to check
Black
it out.
Swan if it were rowing.
Yeah, that's right. You heard it here first. And yeah, it is centered on this girl who is obsessed with being the best. And you could literally put this in any sport and really anything that there could be any kind of competitive nature. And it's just how her mindset, why she is so obsessed with being the best, how they portray her obsession is very interesting. And seeing just how far she will go to be the best is caught me really off guard, man. I was like, man, I got like a spare. It's like 96 minutes. I was like, I got a spare like hour and a half before kickoff on Sunday. Let me just throw this on real quick. And I was riveted all the way throughout. Isabella Furman is Alex Dahl, the main person. And as soon as she comes on the screen, you're like, oh, okay, so Crazy Eyes. I know I'm in for some wild shit here. And that is exactly what you get. And she plays the hell out of that role, man. You want to talk about awards? This is going to be one of those movies where I'm like, I'll be beaten from the rooftops, and it's not going to get much in the way of any kind of consideration. But such as a lot of movies that come out throughout the year. But this one, I think, is one to put on people's stoves to check out, man. The Novice. Right. Also saw the French Dispatch. My boy Wes Anderson, man. Kind of a different way than he normally
when
does.
You finished it, were you like, wow?
Wow. Old Wilson only in there for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Interesting. He's framing device that he just tells a straightforward tale, no matter how weird that tale is. It's just a straight A to B story.
Excuse me 1 second. Do you have a piece of paper near your mic?
No.
Okay. I'm hearing something shuffling, so I wanted to check. It wasn't doing it before, but it started after you grabbed the paper, so I want to make sure. You were saying the framing device.
Yeah, the framing device here is the French Dispatch being a newspaper. And this is one of their last printings, and they're talking about, you can kind of get an idea of what the French Dispatch is, and it's about French stories, but they're in Kansas, and they just distribute these weird French tales they learn about. And it's highlighting on 3 of their writers, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton, Jeffrey Wright. And those are your 3 vignettes. The story that they are writing about is what we are seeing on the screen. And it's broken up like a newspaper is into different sections. Frances McDormand's was the politics section. Jeffrey Wright's is the arts and culture, because he's a food writer. And I can't remember what exactly Tilda Swinton's section is. But, section 1, Benicio del Toro, about an artist in jail who was discovered, and the world waiting for his next big thing, and that whole plays out. Then section 2, Frances McDormand and Timothy Chalamet, covering like a weird generational upheaval, like the youngs versus the olds in this town, and how that plays out, and the whole theme going through that of journalistic integrity, even though she's sleeping with one of the people that she's doing the story on. Timothy Chalamet, which is a refreshing thing to see as a young guy and an older lady in bed. And then the third one being Jeffrey Wright, one of the best 20 minutes of film I've seen this year. And he's just like, he's
and you've seen No Time to Die.
I've seen No Time to Die. He Jeffrey Wright, No Time to Die. Jeffrey Wright, The French Dispatch is mwah. A food critic, and even that within itself is its own little framing device. He's being interviewed by Leah Schreiber, and Leah Schreiber's asking about his typographic memory, and puts him to the test with an older article that he once wrote. And what he is voicing over is his recalling of that article from memory. And just the guy who's having dinner with some people, a guy's son gets kidnapped, and their journey to get that son back, and all the weird craziness that it goes through. It is amazingly good. Like I had so much fun watching that third segment. If I could nominate just a segment of a movie for best narrative feature, it would be that. Because it's really good. And I plan on going back to watch French Dispatch just for that third section. And I also saw Last Night in Soho, which was kind of whack. But other than that, man, that's about it for my half.
Oh, right on, right on. I'm sorry to hear that it was whack.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have to sit through 116 minutes of whackness. But it is what it is. It's a movie that really is decent. The setup is decent. It falls all the way apart at the end, and it takes too long it takes way too long to establish itself before things actually happen. That's its issue. It takes way too long for the actual mystery to get going. Like Edgar Wright was way too in love with just, hey, 60s London, check it out. I'm like, okay, we get it. So let's get to something actually happening here. And then by the time he does, it all kind of has to wrap up really quick. And then like even at the end, when you think you got everything that's going on, there's another extra little twist, which is so absurd to me that the guy 2 seats down from me just extended both middle fingers to the screen at that point, and I was like, I understand completely. I was with that guy. We were of one mind at that point in the movie. But yeah, not Edgar Wright's best. I put that currently at the bottom of his filmography, unfortunately. But something's got to be down there, and that's what it is right now. Last Night in Soho. Official review. Heard it here first.
I think for me right now, it's what's the Alien movie about alcoholism?
Paul? The World's End.
Yeah, At the World's End.
No, that's Paul, next to last for me.
Paul is not an Edgar Wright movie, but it
is. Who did that movie?
It's Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Yes.
Oh, but it's not an Edgar
Wright movie.
That's that one up.
No. But for some reason, that movie, it's got some great moments, and I love the ideas in it, but there's just something about it that doesn't resonate, and I don't know why. But, can't really speak.
Yeah, of the Cornetto trilogy, it's the one that I'm like, that's kind of whack. Like, they kind of fumbled at the end, but, it is what it
is. Yeah.
Oh, the dude who did Paul is doing a Fletch movie, apparently. Interesting. With John Hamm as Fletch, I'm already out. Don't like it.
You don't like John Hamm?
I like John Hamm. I like to meet John Hamm, but that's when I think Fletch, I think Chevy Chase is fast talking, incredibly sarcastic, and that's not the kind of comedy that I see John Hamm doing.
It's been I'm old, decades since I've read the books, but I used to read the books because I'd seen the movies. And as I recall, the books are a little different from Chase's performance. So this could be following that.
It could be following that. And
he's still very clever and very funny, but
yeah. I'm still 1000% on board with what Kevin Smith was campaigning for years with the Jason Lee Fletch movie.
Fletch lives.
That's what I wanted. But it is what it is. We're not here to talk about that. Let's get into our topic for the day, sir.
Topic for today, we discussed talking about cliffhangers, cinematic cliffhangers. And just to provide a general idea for those that are not sure, cliffhanger is the plot device in which a component of a story ends unresolved. Could be suspenseful, could be shocking, but it has you go, ooh, what the fuck was that? And I don't mean in a throwing 2 middle fingers up at the screen kind of what the fuck was that, but in an actual intentional way. We're talking about Back to the Future Part 2, where it ends with Marty getting the package and being like, we gotta go even further to the past.
Yeah.
We're talking about Infinity War that left actual people's jaws on the floor. What the hell just happened? The Birds, where there really isn't a resolution. The birds are still on the hunt. Film we're going to talk about later, Flash Gordon, Inception with its top that never stops spinning, The Thing and the Showdown in the Darkness, Planet of the Apes. These films, and depending on the version of Blade Runner you watch, Blade Runner. So it really does depend. but all of these films end in a way that's intended to shock. Now, a cliffhanger originally was to be more of a television technique, a storytelling technique to bring you back for a following season. Or it could even be used in like soap operas where it's a serial and they want you to come back. The person's in peril, you've got to return to see what happens. In movies, they tend to be more finite. There's usually not a continuation. So that's what we decided to explore today, which are our favorite cliffhangers in cinema. I'm just going to put it right out there. Mine are all tied to other films. Mine are all either are or will have sequels. So mine aren't cliffhangers in the sense of total unresolved, but they do leave you with the feeling of what the fuck just happened, whether that's good or bad. So to kick us off, do you want to go first or would you like me to?
Go for it, sir.
All right. My first one is a film from 2003, a film whose upcoming sequel I was not excited for until I saw the trailer, and then I went, gimme, 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 gimme. I'm talking about The Matrix Reloaded.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to the end of The Matrix Reloaded, by this point, Neo has been to the architect. He's learned about the purpose of the One as a function of the system, who voluntarily saves Zion every time. He chooses to continue humanity. And this time, the One is choosing to save the woman he loves at the risk of potentially dooming humanity.
I like it.
And he chooses her. And in the race to get out, while that's happening, there's an attack from the machines that is beginning. And there's a group of the resistance that is trying to set up a area of attack where they can sort of create some defenses for Zion. Well, that gets destroyed because what they don't know is that Smith has figured out how to leave the Matrix, and he's now in Bane.
Mm-hmm.
So as the film is ending, you've got Neo, who has suddenly realized he can control the machines from the real world, who then passes out. And as we're catching up with everything that's happening and the stakes are being explained about what's going on, we've got Neo on one table, Bane on the other table. Credits. Like, it's just, that's where it leaves us. And I forget if Revolution came months or a year later. I literally can't remember.
I think it was months.
Because Kill Bill Volume 2 did a similar thing, where it released one and then a few months later did two. But that's one film, whereas Reloaded and Revolutions, they're sequels. So they're their own stories. But when that happened at the end of the movie, I lost my fucking mind. I was huge into The Matrix at the time. And because of Reloaded, I'm like playing it, the video games, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm trying to follow the philosophy and everything that was into it. I could not wait for Revolutions to show up. And time has made me feel better about the trilogy as a whole. But in terms of how these films have ended, Reloaded, it was you thought the starter blast was at the end of the first Matrix. Reloaded has the real starter fire. This is when everything truly kicks off, because Revolutions just goes. So that's my first cliffhanger.
Right on. My first cliffhanger, I mean, I'm just gonna go with the obvious one right off, is Fellowship of the Ring.
Which ending?
Which ending? I mean, Fellowship only has really the one.
I don't know. When I was watching, I was like, okay, they got together. Now sorry, I'm going to be quiet. You talk about those hobbitses. Talk about them. Those
if you didn't know Lord of the Rings, which apparently,
I have no fucking clue.
You didn't know what was coming. And I remember that first night when those lights came on, people were just like, wait, what? That's it? And they didn't realize this is a trilogy. This is one third of a complete and total story. because a lot of people didn't realize that. I guess for them, it was a cliffhanger. I mean, you got this allegory for a nuke running around out there. And two people are just like, you know what, we're better off handling this ourselves. So we're just going to split off from the main party. And then what's left of the main party, two of them get kidnapped. And the three that's left is like, well, we don't know where those clowns are going over there with the ring, but we can save, Mary and Pippin. And that's kind of what you're left with is your team that you thought was going to be your D&D party doing this whole thing has now split into two, and you're going to get two concurrent stories, and then two of the members of those parties are in mortal danger as we speak. And so, not knowing what's going to come next, I could see how a lot of people were vexed that they had to wait a whole year, which we would not see any kind of vexation like that really again until Infinity War. And it's a perfect. I mean, he's following the books fairly closely, but even that storytelling right there is a perfect place to end that first joint. Is on that uncertainty of what happens next.
Right on, right on. I for some reason it's not going to be the first time we talk about this tonight, but that's a series that for whatever reason, as an avid reader, I never got into. My brothers, both of whom hate reading, have read, I think, at least The Hobbit. Maybe they had to do it for school, whereas by the time I got to that class, they'd stopped doing it. I've never read them, and I've never had an interest in reading them. And you're talking to a guy who read all 10 of L. Ron Hubbard's Mission Earth books after I lost the use of one of my hands and had to not go to school for a while. So that's what I did, was read those books. I didn't know what Scientology was at the time.
That's all a completely different genre, though.
But so I find it fascinating that I would have been one of those people in the theater. I was one of those people, and I knew that there were two more movies coming. That was like, what just happened? So it's always been fascinating to me, and for all the jokes that I make, I wish I had your level of excitement with that series. I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yes, I also feel like you're missing out on something. It's not only is it the grandfather of an entire genre, it is also an epic monument in achievement in filmmaking in general. That cannot be denied or disproven. So it's one of it's on the technical level, on a storytelling level, on an acting level, on a directing level. It's undeniable what Lord of the Rings did for genre as a whole. It respected and legitimized a genre that up until that point was just a joke and didn't have real budgets and was kind of goofy and a little bit silly outside of like maybe Willow and Labyrinth. Everything else is pretty fucking goofy when it came to fantasy. Lord of the Rings helped bring credibility and legitimacy to that entire genre. Thanks to Jackson and Whitehead and New Line and all those dudes. What's your second movie? My
second one is a shitty movie.
That's no surprise here.
Yeah. Damn. Damn. Apparently this is also from 2003. I did not see it in the theaters like I did Matrix Reloaded, but this is a film that, while the movie itself, honestly, not great, it's part of a long line of films that probably peaked with the sequel. In fact, for me, the sequel, and I can see you trying to do the math, the sequel for me is even better than the first film, or at least for me, it's more watchable than the first film. But I don't think you can look at the series as a whole in the long line of films that they've made. And I don't think you can look at this specific one in how it continued to shape and impact the rest of the series. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. It's not really a good movie.
No.
It's really not. But the ending changes everything, because the first movie and the second movie as well are all about changing your fate, changing how things are done, making sure that John Connor is not only born, but he lives to become the leader of the resistance, keep the timeline intact. Well, but then how to use that information to prevent the end of the world from ever happening, from the robot apocalypse ever happening, which is sort of what Terminator 2 deals with. But with Rise of the Machines, they show us with that ending, it was inevitable. It was, you could not avoid it. And that for every act of trying to prevent it, just move John closer to being in the bunker, to being the only person that not only could answer the world's calls, but actually knew what was happening, therefore putting him into the position to become the resistance leader. He had that foreknowledge that because the machines tried to kill him in the first place, set him on the path to become their greatest enemy. And the fact that they did this at the end, that we see the annihilation of humankind, with the exception of a few, I thought was bold. That while the whole movie, you may not necessarily want to revisit this ending, that's the thing that you're going to walk out of the theater remembering. That's the moment you are going to hold on to. And while we talked about our favorite endings in the last episode, to me, as a cliffhanger, as a surprise, as a sort of unresolved thing, this is one of those shifts in the way your brain looks at the previous two films and what they were attempting to do, that this whole film, Rise of the Machines, is building towards. You just don't see it amid all the basic action sci-fi that they're giving you, because Terminator Schwarzenegger has to fight another Terminator. And what do we do with that? It's so locked into that stuff that the ideas that were present in the first Terminator and the second Terminator get weighed down until that final moment. So that's why I picked that one.
Right on, right on. Good analysis there, sir. Good analysis. My second movie, man.
Two Towers.
Apparently, I only wrote down 2 movies.
What? Okay. The Daryl I know, if someone says the list can only include this many things, you started to short some lists online one day. It was like, name 3 things. You were like, fuck you, here's 2.
No, it was name 4 things, and I gave 5 twice, 2 days in a row.
Oh, I missed that.
It was like, what's on your Mount Rushmore of? And my dumbass is like, there's 5 on Rushmore, right? Or something goofy like that. There's 5 and I only put 4, or something crazy. I think when I made my list, I was like, well, I know the third one's going to be, and didn't write it down. And dumbass me now forgot what that was. I'll have to think about that. Right now, Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels. Man, no better cliffhanger than a guy perched on the edge of a bridge, trying to push off what he does not realize are a pair of incredibly rare guns into the river. With his phone in his mouth and the phone ringing of his friends telling him not to do the thing that they told him to go do, because he's about to throw thousands of pounds away without his knowledge. And it ends on that freeze frame of him with like one hand on the lip of the bridge and one hand him trying to push that bag off. In a movie that's just wild twists and turns and wackadoo nonsense all throughout, and godlike amounts of luck heaped onto these kids, and a good bit of unluckiness as well, and a lot of right time, right place, wrong time, wrong place, right time, wrong place, wrong time, right place, all throughout that movie. This ends on just what could be the only ending that you could give this movie. It's what I was like, all right, this is a pretty good movie, until you get to that last shot, and I was like, oh, this is an amazing movie. It's what put Guy Ritchie on the map for a lot of people. Well, I guess Snatch is what put him really on the map, but it's what put him on the radar of people, that, oh, this guy could be somebody. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and it just ends on that fun as well. It gives you something to talk about on your way out of theater.
This is not the first time you brought up Lock, Stock, 2 Smoking Barrels on our show, and I need to revisit it. I need to make some time in the new year to revisit it, because it's been forever and I don't remember it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I got into an argument with someone on a first date about which is the better movie, Lock, Stock, or Snatch. And I will always, always in my heart say that Lock, Stock is the better movie than Snatch is. Snatch gives you the better stars, and a bit of a weirder story, but there's just so much that goes right in Lock, Stock that I love it.
Right on. Right on. Well, my last one, strangely enough, also from 2003. I didn't look up any of these years at all. I was just doing my research and I was thinking about them. and I knew I was going to talk about Reloaded, but I wasn't sure about these other ones, and I came across P3 and I was like, okay, sure. And then I saw this one, I went, oh yes, because let's be honest, whether you, sir, agree or disagree with mine, the people listening, whether you agree or disagree, first of all, make your own list. But that's the whole idea, is that we come to these with our subjective view. And for me in 2003, this film, I will never forget it, because it was my senior year at UNC Asheville. This film came out right before I graduated. I went with all of my friends to see it at the theater. And when this happened, we all just about jumped out of our seats. Like, this was in the same way, I don't know how it was in your theater, but in Avengers, the first one, when Cap looks at Hulk and says, smash, and he grins and then jumps and causes chaos, my whole theater exploded at that. This moment in this film from 2003 had the same reaction. I'm talking about X2, X-Men United, when you see the beginning of the Phoenix rise from the water.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's where you're going with that one. I was trying to do the math, and I was like, "Oh, is that movie 2002 or 2003?" Yeah, all right, well, all right then, well done.
X2 is honestly still one of the best comic book movies that has been made.
Yes, listen, it's by far the best X-Men movie, and yeah, it is.
Wait, are we including Logan?
Yo, no. When I say like X-Men movies, I mean like it has
the ensemble.
X-Men.
Okay,
yeah.
I would agree with you. Very, very much so on that. X2 is top tier comic book movie. It is, I agree, the best X-Men film. And it's more than any of the other films before they got so complicated when they didn't have to be. It used the rules from the first one well and built on it beautifully. And it's emotionally charged and wonderful. And you get this moment where the Phoenix arises and the possibilities are fucking endless. And then they gave us X3 and destroyed it all. Fuck that movie. But X2 in that moment, like, we joke about cinema. I've made that joke at least once in this episode, but it is that type of evocative. Those that know the imagery, that have some sense, whether they read the comics or they watch the X-Men animated series, they know what Dark Phoenix means. And the fact that they teased it all the way through, whether you paid attention or not. And then you see the moment of sacrifice, and then you see the Phoenix begin to rise, just the fucking energy that came from that moment. It's one of those experiences that you just don't forget.
Right.
And you could say it's the power of the theater. I think if I were sitting at home with my friends watching it for the first time with that same knowledge, we probably would have been equally excited. Holy fucking shit, it's Phoenix. But certainly seeing it on the big screen made an enormous difference.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it was that my theater was a roar as well for those that had an idea what was going on. It was pretty much the same bit of business. And yeah, it's the opposite of Terminator 3, I think. Terminator 3 has that's pretty interesting cliffhanger of inevitability throughout a pile of shit. But this one was is a perfect cap to what was such a good movie that it makes that cherry on top even sweeter, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree completely and entirely. So those are my three.
Well done, sir. My third one, now that I remember it, is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Hey, that's on my list of examples, and I didn't mention it.
Just how J. Jonah Jameson showing up, blowing up Peter's spot. The cliffhangers, really good cliffhangers, will have you asking one of two questions: where does the story go from here, or how the fuck are they going to get out of the situation that they're currently in? And this one is the latter. Like, how is Peter going to get out of this? Now, having seen a trailer for No Way Home, we have a bit of an idea of how he's going to attempt to get out of it. But it looks like even that attempt is going to cause further issues for him anyways. But but just how that all ends, you're just like, hey, you don't expect Jay Jonah. Like they kept that a well hidden secret, so it's just completely by surprise. You've for us who've been waiting for Mysterio, we finally got a great adaptation of Mysterio. So we're on the wind down. We're like, all right, this is a pretty dope movie, a worthy successor to Homecoming. And then that goes down. You're like, oh, his whole world is fucked for a good long while. So yeah, just keeping a narrative push and keeping that character on the back foot at all times is one of the things that the MCU has done really well with this Spider-Man. He's almost constantly a fish out of water in his own movies, and they just find new ways to do that. And that little cliffhanger at the very end, that's like, it's one of those ones where it's so good I forget what the end credits even is. Because like for my mind, that movie stops when J. Jonah Jameson shows up. No idea what those post credit sequences are. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Neither can I.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
It's just somebody showing up saying, "Don't expect any movies in 2020, guys." Disappearing.
Yeah, nobody would believe that then. Nobody would have believed that.
So that is my third movie right there. Boom.
Nice pull. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And yours come from a variety of years, where mine probably come from the same like 3 or 4 months.
The grand cliffhangers of 2003.
Well, somebody's got to keep their memory alive. Nobody talks about X2 anymore.
Yeah, anytime someone's talking crap about X-Men movies, I'm like, but X2. Everyone likes to bring up Days of Future Past as the best X-Men movie, and I'm like, get that shit out of here. It's X2.
Second best. You couldn't have Days of Future Past without X2. You couldn't.
I mean, yes, that's how time works. We got
no. The relationship, the poignancy of Days of Future Past when you're in the present only works because we have seen these relationships. You could have Days of Future Past without X3.
We could have a lot without X3.
Well, yes, but you couldn't do Days of Future Past without X2 because X1 just has Charles and Eric fighting each other. But with X-Men United, we see some of that camaraderie. We see the complexity that is going on in their mission. And to see them go from rivals to suddenly realizing that they've been fighting for way too fucking long, and to see them come back together as friends in Days of Future Past, it wouldn't work without X2.
Right on.
So that's what I mean. Obviously, chronologically, yes, but just the emotional impact of one doesn't work without the work of the other.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Yeah. If only Days of Future Past was a better movie. Let's get on to the challenges. For
Speaking of movies, we wish that were better. So no, I'm kidding. I'm watching your face.
Believe me, I would not have been surprised.
I was planning on making a joke like, so I made it an hour in, got bored and quit. Just to see what you would say.
Again, would not be surprised.
But I've already given you plenty of shit over the fact that if I start a movie, I finish it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how bad it is, I finish it.
Man.
Which I get why people don't. I get it. But also I posted online that I finished it and had work to do. So I couldn't play that joke. I get why people are saying that it should be seen in a theater, or that is the primary option. I was fortunate enough to be able to watch it on a 43-inch 4K television at a distance where 43 inches it's an optimal distance to still get the weight of size and scope. That film is incredible in terms of its set design, in terms of the production design. Someone, I forget who, but a critic described it on Letterboxd as, if not that it's a film or an adaptation, but a documentary of the year 10191. That's how good Villeneuve made this adaptation look. And I have to agree, it is incredible in all the detail and everything else. Now, did I feel like I didn't understand everything because it's an adaptation of a much larger work? And there are concepts and things in it that without that additional detail don't make as much sense. Yes. Did I have trouble with the sound mix because they were speaking in some instances very, very quietly? And thank God I could rewound it and turn the volume up in those moments to find out what they were going to say. Yes. Did I think the music from the score from Hans Zimmer, was it fantastic? Absolutely. Did I think it tried to give every single fucking moment in this movie a sense of urgency and epicness? If you are not epic every moment of your life, like that's how this movie felt. It's like, stop drinking the Mountain Dew. Okay, Hans Zimmer, chill a little bit. Everything just felt huge in sound, and it didn't always need to, which was interesting. But I get why you were satisfied by it. Is what I took is what I took from your responses. I haven't read your review. I haven't read any reviews because I wasn't sure if I would review it. And now, having seen it, I absolutely want to do a review of the film, though I'll probably wait till the home release, because some of my questions that are things that I want to be able to explore without having to avoid spoilers. And there's some answers I want from the bonus features, which I hope are plentiful.
Okay.
There are things that I'd like to know. There is such seamless blending of the elements in the physical and digital that I want to know how they did it. Now, we talked about cliffhangers on this episode, and I forget which specifically you were discussing. I think it was Fellowship of the Ring, that if you weren't aware that it was part of a several thing, how would you feel with this movie? And one of the benefits of seeing the movie late is that I got to see everybody's social commentary, and the movie just ends. Zendaya shows up and it ends. And I was like, well, it's part one.
Yeah, it says it right there on the screen.
Story. And it even says part one on the screen. Yes, absolutely. I wasn't sure if it would or not, because as I understand it, he made the first one not being sure if WB would sign off on a sequel, which was also part of his plan because he wanted to see what the response was. He didn't want to commit to two. He talked about this in an interview. He didn't want to commit to two because of shooting them back to back, and he's known people to do that, and it was really intense, and he didn't want to have to worry about it. But the way that this movie goes, it's constantly building to something that we don't always get the resolution for. So it's very much a part one in that regard. But I don't feel like it just ended. I feel like it went from one escalated situation to, okay, we got out of it, to another escalated situation, to, okay, we got out of it, to another escalated situation, and okay, now we're done. But you weren't ever really sure, and still feels like it's building, which part two will hopefully answer. But I'm intrigued enough to want to see part two. And Timothée Chalamet, who I wasn't entirely sold on, there was I liked him in Lady Bird. There was a Little Women he was fantastic in. There was the movie he did for Netflix you challenged me to see where he played yes. I wasn't too sold on him in that role. He just doesn't feel, and I think I said this then, too authoritarian to me. But it worked here because he's learning. And he's smart enough to know that he's not in his element and he still has much to learn, which he seems to have gotten from his father, which is also awesome. Sand power, right? I like the intrigue. I like certain elements. I'm a little unsure about the appropriation of Middle Eastern, Northern African culture, but as I am less familiar with the source material and the author's research and approach, I don't know if it's appropriation or just inspiration, but I'm ready for part two. I want to see it.
And you will get it in 2023, sir.
Saying 1 week before or after Paw Patrol 2, which I've also heard is a banger, as the kids say.
There you go.
So I'm
sure it'll be a grand debate at the theater when the Doom Paw Patrol battle happens. I'm here for it.
Let me tell you something. There is an active discussion on Twitter between which one will they choose to see, and they're being totally sincere. And I haven't seen Paw Patrol, but apparently it's one of the better animated movies of the years.
There you go. Well, there you go. Excellent.
Anyway, so what about you?
You gave me Flash Gordon, man.
I
1980s space opera.
Saved every one of us.
I just somehow never got around to watching it. I'd seen clips, knew what it was about, and I was like, that looks goofy, but I'll give it a chance, and just never got to that point. And that's exactly what it is. It's goofy, and it's still like sincere and earnest in its goofiness. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's fun. Obviously, trying to ride that Star Wars wave, because all the stuff back in 1980 was trying to ride that Star Wars wave. And this is one that I wish that actually they had put like a little bit of respect and budget into, because I would have been, as much as I liked it, I would have been even more into it had it had like a fair shot with fair resources. But what we got, but kind of that small budget it adds to the charm of the film, I think. You got Sam Jones there. I don't know much about his resume. This is the only thing I ever know him
as I
for.
recall.
Yeah, and he's just talking about riding Star Wars wave. He's been riding the Flash Gordon wave for 30 years. Hey man, Brian
One of the
Bless.
best parts of Ted.
Yeah, yes.
The best parts of Ted.
The best parts of Ted. He's good, man. He just seems like a relatable everyday dude, even though he's a professional NFL quarterback for the Jets, which is so far from relatable for all of us schlubs. But he's just a regular, good, solid dude, and he's just a dude who goes on a regular, good, solid journey of classic good versus evil, man. And, a couple of shadowy gray characters in there. There's a little bit of tragedy, there's fun, there's adventure. Timothy Dalton adds legitimacy to everything that he does. He's a good sense of menace. Even Hot Fuzz, still give a little bit of menace in Hot Fuzz, even though it's a goofy comedy, man. Like they chose him perfectly. They knew what they were getting. It's just fun, man. Brian Bless is just swinging for the fences in every scene, man. Just Thanksgiving for every scenery with that guy. He's just
no, don't say he's a hawk man. Don't bring birds into this. What happens to birds on Thanksgiving?
There's a little bit of issue with Ming the Merciless. I think these days people have a little bit of issue with that, but still, Terrence Stamp is just a delightful, quote spouting villain. It's just good. It's just a good, fun movie, man. It moves. There's not a whole lot of drag to it.
Terrence Stamp is in this?
Not Terrence Stamp. Max von Sydow. Sorry, wrong old guy. Max von Sydow, not Terrence Stamp. I just saw Terrence Stamp in something a couple days ago. Can't remember what it was though, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's Terrence Stamp! I haven't seen that dude from. What the fuck did I just see him?" Anyways, yeah, dopeness, man. I'm glad I finally got around to checking this out. This seems like it is a 100% Douglas Davison movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like this has if I were to go to the movie and just see a sticker with your face that says Douglas Davison approved, I'd know exactly what I was in for, and that's exactly what I got.
Just so you're aware, and in case there's any listeners,
Last Night in Soho. That's what I saw Terrence Stamp in.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't know he was in that.
Yeah.
Does he play? Don't tell me. Never mind. I'll see it eventually.
He's the old guy. You've seen him in the trailer. He's an old guy there.
I forget the last time I watched the trailer. But for those of you listening that are fans of Flash Gordon, and you, sir, if you would have an interest, Vinegar Syndrome put out a 4K of Flash Gordon. You can get it. I don't know if the collector's edition is still available. It came with a whole host of delicious bonus features. But you can also just get the 4K, and you can get that at you could have ordered it off of Best Buy, Amazon, or you can go to a more indie boutique like Diabolic DVD. But the 4K restoration, it is so good, so beautiful. Crystal and I watched it, and this is why you do restorations. This type of thing, it is so beautiful and looks so much better than the DVD or Blu-ray. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't want that. I did this. So like I've made this argument with Star Wars. For me, part of the appeal of Star Wars is that it kind of looks a little low budget and a little cheesy. I don't want it looking any better than it did on film. And that would be about the same way I would want to watch Flash Gordon. Like, don't clean it up. I like it the way it looks.
I'm just saying it doesn't it doesn't change obviously the era it was made in. It doesn't look modern in the sense of Last Night in Soho. It just, imagine Dick Tracy, Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy. What do you think about that movie?
Love that movie.
Okay. Now imagine that shit in 4K.
Nope, don't want to. Yet again.
I want it. Give it to me, Daryl.
I like it the way it looks. Part of why I like things like that is how it looks, how I first experienced it. Okay. That is kind of how I want to capture it and keep that.
Okay.
So when I go back to it, boom.
And then give me the 4K.
There you go. You take your 4K and your Blu-ray Star Wars. I will stick. I don't want to go any higher than the DVD Star Wars. If George Lucas is like, we'll come and act it out in front of you, I'll be like, stop right there, George. I'll just watch it on Blu-ray and be happy.
He can't. Even contractually, he's not allowed.
No, that's contractually not allowed. If Walt Disney's corpse came and was like, we'll do Star Wars, I'd be like, thanks, you ghoul, but no thanks. Get back underground where you're supposed to be. It's not Halloween anymore.
Good use of the word ghoul.
Oh, thank you very much. That's it for this episode of Cinnamon for 57. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we dip out?
No, man. This was great. Thank you.
Excellent. My chicken nuggets are getting cold. All right.
No.
We will be back, man. Hopefully not as big
soon.
A gap as we had this last time. Hopefully we can get into a little bit of a groove as we end the year 2020, and I'm sure somewhere maybe late December we will unveil some tops and favorites and lists and all that kind of stuff. But for now, award season is upon us, so I'm sure all sorts of groovy things that are out there. Yeah, so there's that. So
just for you, I'm gonna make sure I watch 9 Days.
Oh man, yeah. Hopefully you enjoy 9 Days. There's a specific person who, for some reason, likes to constantly remind me that 9 Days is a better movie than Green Knight. It's complete bullshit. But hopefully you enjoy it.
Wait. Did you just say I said that? Because
no. There's someone on my Facebook that's constantly saying that 9 Days is better than Green Knight. Hopefully you enjoy it. It's part of the slate of stuff that we got. Somebody's email. So hopefully you check that out and enjoy it, man.
Sony Pictures Classics.
That's right. There you go. So that is it for episode 57 of the Cinnamon. We will be back hopefully in a couple of weeks with something new for you. Until then, you all take it easy and have a good one.
Bye.